In this video, I'm going to show you 10 signs, 10 things that rude people do, and many people end up promoting these behaviors and end up being considered rude themselves even without realizing it. Hi, how are you? Welcome to the Etiquette and Protocol channel. I'm Juliana Santiago, and in today's video, we're going to talk a little more about signs, things that rude people do. One thing we can mention right away that rude people do is constantly interrupt, especially when they're talking to someone. Usually, rude people don't let the other person speak, so they not only dominate the topic of conversation the whole time, only sharing their own points of view and ideas, but they also don't give others a chance to talk. So, when someone starts telling a story, the person already interrupts, they don't let the other finish a sentence before starting to share their own point of view. So it's a person who is constantly interrupting a conversation. Be careful when talking to someone because having a pleasant conversation with someone is the biggest sign that you are a charismatic person, that you care about others. So be very careful about always cutting people off. Another thing, which is another sign of rude people, is the lack of empathy. So nowadays, there's a lot of talk about the need for us to have empathy for other people, but we often forget to promote this in the smallest details. The biggest example of lack of empathy that we have is, for example, the person who cuts in line, the person who parks their car and, for example, takes up 2 parking spaces at the mall or supermarket, not leaving space for someone else. That person who goes to the supermarket with their shopping cart and leaves the cart in the middle of the way, sometimes even taking up a parking spot, and when someone else comes to park, the cart is still there. When you don't think about the other person, you stop being someone who has and promotes empathy. I know that many times empathy is associated with paying attention to other people's difficulties, to other people's problems, learning to listen to others as well, and never diminishing other people's feelings. This is essential. But we also need to understand that there is this other side of empathy, and it also happens in small practices like the ones I just listed for you. Another sign that you might be considered rude is if you are constantly on your phone. When you talk to someone, you talk to them while texting on your phone or sometimes even just looking at your phone. When you arrive at an event, the first thing you do is look at your phone, being more interested in the virtual world, in what's happening on your phone, rather than actually enjoying the moment. Be very careful about spending all your time on your phone. This is a very common lack of manners, actually a modern lack of manners, right? Cell phones are a new presence in our society. So it's essential for us to learn how to deal with cell phone use and try to use this resource in the best way so we're not seen in a negative light. Another sign that you might be being rude is if you're someone who doesn't have the habit of saying thank you. How often do you thank people? When someone does you a favor, do you say thank you very much? When someone holds a door for you to pass, do you thank them? When someone is kind to you during a service, do you have the habit of thanking them? Sometimes we go to the supermarket and the people there end up helping us put our groceries in the bag, for example. The beggar ends up helping us there. Do you have the habit of looking at that person and actually thanking them for that gesture, for helping you? We really forget to thank the person. Many times we are actually, yes, grateful for someone's attitude, but we forget to say it out loud. So this is an important point. Not only should you feel grateful to someone or for something someone does for you, but it's essential that you express that feeling. Another sign that you might be considered a rude person is if, for example, you don't have the habit of apologizing. I know that sometimes it can be hard for us to learn and apologize to other people when we think we've made a mistake. But this is a very mature attitude, because recognizing your mistake and understanding that you can improve is important for building a sincere relationship with someone else, whether at work or in your social circle. For example, if you do something at work that harms your team, wow, it's essential that you go there and take responsibility for your actions, right? Have that sense of responsibility and know how to apologize to handle that situation. Nowadays, we really value sincere relationships. We say that many times the relationships we have with people, not only in the professional world, but also in our personal lives, end up being very superficial. And then when we make a mistake with someone, many times we prefer to distance ourselves rather than apologize. But apologizing is something that shows you are a very mature person. You're also someone who truly wants to learn, someone who is resilient, and you're willing to fix your mistake and even change your attitude. Another behavior that rude people have. They are usually people who don't really respect other people's boundaries. So on this topic, we could discuss it in many ways, because there are people who don't respect your boundaries in a physical way. She keeps talking to you all the time, touching you, which is completely unpleasant, right? It ends up being a really awkward situation, and you actually end up being misunderstood because people even start to avoid you when they talk to you, or when you also don't respect someone's personal boundaries. Sometimes something happened to someone and the person doesn't want to share the details, so we have to learn to respect that. Don't keep asking too many questions about topics you notice someone doesn't want to talk about or discuss with you. Always make the person feel comfortable. And one way you can do this to make people feel comfortable to talk and feel good around you is to let the other person speak. Many people have their own pace when it comes to building trust and forming ideas. So sometimes you might be a faster person who already expresses what you're feeling. But sometimes the other person takes a little more time. Sometimes they need some time to feel secure and safe with you. Or even during a conversation, sometimes the person needs some time to connect ideas, to interpret some of those feelings, especially when we're talking about sensitive topics for someone, where the person is going to talk about a difficult moment they've been through. And if you're enjoying the channel, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Many people watch the videos, but they're not subscribed to the Etiquette y Protocolos channel. We have weekly videos here and I'm always waiting for you. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and on our social media, which are also Etiquette y Protocolo. I'm waiting for you. Another thing that rude people do, and they do it very often, is gossiping. Rude people often hear a story, sometimes a distorted story, some news, a rumor, and they go around spreading that news without even checking if it's true or if they should be talking about that topic, that subject, without confirming if it should be shared with others. So be very careful when gossiping or talking about other people, because talking about others says a lot about how you feel about them, but it also says a lot about what others will think of you. If someone is gossiping in a social setting with a group of friends or even at work, if she's there talking about someone else, chances are that when you walk away, she might talk about you too. So be very careful when sending messages or sharing things that you consider to be news, good things, without sharing whether that can actually be done. Another factor that might make you be seen as rude is when you really monopolize the conversation. We talked about conversation at the beginning of the video, and this is a topic that, if you want, I can come back and talk more about. Because there are several mistakes that people make, common mistakes, during a conversation. And one of them is really monopolizing the conversation. Monopolizing the conversation isn't just you talking all the time, right? It's not just you being there talking all the time and your voice is always the one that dominates. But it's also related to you always talking about yourself, about your experiences, where your experiences are better than other people's. Where you really have to be on top of everything. You have to know everything. So be very careful. Give space to other people. This is a way, as I already mentioned, for people to feel good around you, to feel comfortable by your side. Criticizing is also another habit that rude people have. Criticizing not only other people's actions, right? It's also a bit related to gossiping, which we've already talked about before. But it's also about personally criticizing some attitude that someone has when they tell you something. Sometimes you talk to a male or female friend. And many times the person shares a difficult moment they had with you, or the moment they're going through. And you simply start criticizing, oh, you should have done this, you should have gone another way. Be very careful. Give your opinion when it is asked for. Also, pay attention to the timing and the person you're talking to. See if you have that kind of freedom and analyze if it's really worth expressing your opinions there. Because many times when we criticize others too much, the other person can feel diminished and may get really upset with you. This can not only make you seem like a rude person, but it can also cause you to distance yourself from others. So be very careful about criticizing too much, That person who always has something to criticize about everything. Be very careful. Another more modern habit that rude people have is really not knowing the limits of using social media as a whole, of the internet as a whole. Many times we end up sharing other people's information without permission. Many times we make comments that can hurt and make the person on the other side feel diminished, feel bad, feel insecure, feel inferior. So we have to be very careful with the kinds of comments we make on social media. As incredible as it may seem, even I, who have a channel called Etiquette and Protocol, receive negative comments every day from people trying to belittle my content. I know that this in fact isn't something that stops me or holds me back, but it's really something we notice is a mistake of our times, a mistake of modern society, and it's something I truly don't want you to make. So be very careful as well when posting indirect messages on social media. Sometimes you're going through a tough time in your life and you end up exposing subtle hints on your social networks. Things that can also eventually end up harming your relationships, both personal and professional. So we need to learn how to use social media. And that's why I've already made a video here on the channel, Social Media Etiquette Rules that you need to know. And I'll leave it here on the side for you to watch right after this video, okay? Thank you so much and see you in the next video.